Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Wednesday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at the forecast for this continuing atmospheric river system that is impacting Western Washington, and we'll take a look at the next few days as we go into the Thanksgiving weekend. So starting here with the forecast for today and Thanksgiving, you can see we do have this system offshore. You can see parts of the atmospheric river that have already moved through yesterday, brought a lot of snow to the mountains and some rain to the lowlands, and then we have more moisture offshore that's going to be moving in through the day today, especially into tonight. Taking a look at the radar right now, you can see some of that rain continuing across parts of Oregon, but we have a nice break across Western Washington, and that break is going to continue through this evening. So if you're traveling, get that travel in tonight, but by tonight if you want to avoid most of this rain. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Starting here with the overall pattern, you see we have this brief ridge over us today with the atmospheric river still active to our south, and then we have all this trough here that pushes a lot more rain back through the area. Then we dry out mostly as we go into the Thanksgiving weekend with ridging offshore. We may have a brief area of rain as we go into Saturday night into Sunday, and then we will likely remain on the drier side to start December, but we'll have to watch that closely. Starting here with the precipitation map, you see that rain continuing across Oregon, then that atmospheric river starts to lift northward back into southwest Washington as we go to about 4 p.m. today. By 7 p.m., that's approaching Olympia, and by 10 p.m. we got rain back across most of western Washington. That will continue as we go into Thanksgiving and through the day on Thanksgiving. This is midday on Thanksgiving. You see rain at times across the lowlands, moderate to heavy at times, and then you see that snow starting to creep back down toward Stevens Pass and White Pass and stuff like that. This continues as we go all the way through the night of Thanksgiving, then into Friday morning there, and you can see we finally have that rain diminish and move out of western Washington by about 7 a.m. Friday, and then we remain mostly dry through the day Friday, and then you can see the system to our north here on Saturday. By Saturday night, you start to get a little bit more rain coming through the area, maybe a couple more inches of mountain snow there. You can see going into late Saturday night there, and then that pushes off to the south, and we have a dry day on Sunday. Maybe some brief rain coming through Monday, but only very brief and light, and then we'll see what happens as we go into the next few days of December after that. Continuing with the precipitable water forecast here. So this is looking at amount of water vapor in the atmosphere, and these numbers are the anomaly, so how much above normal that is. You can see that atmospheric river today kind of hung up across Oregon, then it pushes back north across western Washington, and then you have this low pressure system here, that trough we saw earlier, that pushes a lot more moisture through western Washington as we go through Thanksgiving. There you see that wraparound moisture on the north side of the low moving through as we go into Thanksgiving night, and then that pushes out of the area as we go into Friday with some cooler and drier air being pulled in behind it. Total precipitation coming up through the next 24 hours or so here, actually the next 48 hours. So this is the National Blend of Models. You're looking at a pretty high-resolution forecast here. You can see areas north of the Olympic Peninsula getting about a half inch of rain due to that Olympic rain shadow there. Then you can see areas from about Everett and Arlington down through Seattle toward Olympia and Portland getting about 3/4 of an inch to 1 1/4 inches there, except the Kitsap Peninsula getting 1.5 inches of rain there, and the coast getting 1 to 1.5 inches. With the snow level moderately high in the Cascades and the Olympics, you're looking at about 2 to 3 inches there in most of the Cascades and Olympics with this upcoming rain as well. And then taking a look at the high-resolution rapid refresh model, taking a look at mountain snow here, you can see most of this is going to be falling on Thanksgiving and into that night. Stevens Pass looks to be the winner here, likely picking up around another foot of snow. You can see Snoqualmie Pass only getting about 4 inches and White Pass getting even less because that snow seems to be mainly focused here on the North Cascades. We can look at one more forecast here and look at the European model. You can see the European model shows a little bit less snow there. It shows 3 to 5 inches there at Stevens Pass, about an inch at Snoqualmie Pass, and maybe a little bit more, around 3 to 5 inches there for White Pass as well, maybe up towards 7 inches, and maybe a little bit of snow around Spokane as well, but that is later on in this forecast there. You can see that actually that it already fell. That is still showing up from last night's forecasts, regardless of if that really happened out that area or not. That is showing up from the previous forecast. You can see as we go through Friday morning, that's when the European stops all that snow across the Cascades. So really not all that much. This shouldn't cause too many travel impacts, just maybe a little bit of a nuisance over Stevens and White Passes there. Then taking a look at wind real quick here, you can see it looks like we may have some windy conditions for parts of southwest Washington as we go through Thanksgiving, maybe 35 to 40 mile per hour gusts around Portland. And you can see the Seattle metro area and most of western Washington only gusting about 25 miles per hour. They're maybe down toward 30 miles per hour south of Olympia, and on the coast likely 30 to 40 miles per hour, but nothing unusual there. Strongest winds maybe with that pressure gradient on the south side of that low. On the North Oregon coast, they're going to be gusting up toward 50 miles per hour, but a pretty small area getting that. And then taking a look at temperatures here, you can see that we have highs today likely in the upper 40s to low 50s, so a little much warmer than yesterday's pretty cold conditions, but still on the cool side. We warm up a little bit for Thanksgiving, but not all that much. Highs remain in the upper 40s to low 50s, a few mid 50s from Olympia southward and on the coast. As we go into Friday, you can see those highs stay in the upper 40s to low 50s in northwest Washington, and then low to mid 50s for most of the rest of western Washington. Most of the Seattle metro in the low 50s, but areas south of Tacoma and Olympia, they're likely getting up toward 55 degrees. Then as we go into Saturday, that next weak system moves through. You can see those highs drop to the mid to upper 40s across the region. We stay there in the mid to upper 40s as we go through Sunday, and then as we go into Monday, that first day of December, there you can see we cool down quite a bit with those highs dropping to the low to mid 40s across the region. And then taking a look real quick at the ensemble forecast here for SeaTac, you can see pretty good agreement on about another 0.8 to 1 inch of rain with the second half of this atmospheric river as we go through tonight, through Thanksgiving, and into Friday, and then maybe a little bit more coming up this weekend, but not all that much rain. So you're likely going to end November with about 1 to 1.5 more inches of rain here. And then this is looking at Stevens Pass. You can see maybe a little bit more snow today, and then you have that chance of a few more inches, maybe up toward 3 to 7 inches or so. That's about the range that it's showing, average showing about 3.5 to 4 inches in a 24-hour period as we go through Thanksgiving into Friday. And then taking a look at these temperature outlooks now for the first 5 days of December, there you can see near normal to slightly above average temperatures now showing up for the Pacific Northwest, and near normal to slightly below average precipitation. So likely a less active pattern coming up here to start December, maybe some ridging, and we'll see if we get any fog and inversions and maybe some sunny days out of this, but we'll have to watch this closely to see how things verify. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe here to Western Washington Weather. Follow me on Facebook on the Western Washington Weather Facebook group, and then follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. And be sure to click down here in the left corner there to check out my footage from Snoqualmie Pass yesterday afternoon and evening as that snow moved through. So thank you all very much for watching. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you all later.